All right, so I went down to the airport and I made this pattern that fits up in the window. It didn't exactly end up centered, but that's just fine for what I'm doing with it right at this moment. But I want to go ahead and get it onto something that's a little more precision. So right now I'm going to trace it on a piece of plywood, and then I'll go ahead and get that cut out so that I can work on this front eyebrow. I've got an idea of what I'm going to do. I traced the front of the dash once it was up in there. I'm thinking I'm going to have it hang over 2 inches on the sides and then go to 4 inches in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and get this little thin piece of plywood cut to that dimension, and then I'm going to try it into the airplane and sit in the cockpit and see if I like it. So anyway, I will get it to that point, and then I will touch in with you guys while it's in the airplane and go from there. So there is one more thing I kind of wanted to do here. I don't know if I'll be able to do it by myself. I usually have a helper when I do this, but I will give it a whirl here, see if I can get it done. So this is my get some crap out from underneath here. This is my dash shape, the top that goes in the windshield. This is the dash that I already installed and built, that line there. So I came 2 inches, not down the rake, but out from the perpendicular of this line on each side and made a mark. And then I came the 13 inches to the middle and I measured down and made a mark at 4 inches. So now what I usually do is I take a piece of MDF, which this is just a little thin piece of MDF, and I usually hold it like this and then have somebody trace it. But I don't have somebody here, so we're going to see if we can make this happen. Have to use all my feet and my elbows and arms and hands and everything else I got. But I got it. So that's approximately what I'm thinking we'll have for the eyebrow that hangs over the instruments to shade them from the sun. I might get it in the plane as a template and go, wow, that's way too far. But I wanted to start too far. I can always cut a little bit off. So anyway, I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm going to head down to the hangar, try it in there, and then I'll video you from there. All right, so I got down to the airport. As you can see, I have taped that piece I just made, the little sun visor top part of the dash. I have taped it in there. The only thing I am going to change a little bit is on this side right here, it kind of leaves a gap, has a visible gap. So I have to lower the dash just a little bit, lower it down. I only got it one hole drilled to hold it in there, and there's 4, so I'll just have to lower one down, drill a new hole, and then adjust that hole so I can fix that gap. On this side over here, it actually fits pretty good. There's no gap, fits tight. So I like that. I think if I lower that side down, then that'll fit. So on the outside from here, I like it. I haven't got inside the airplane to see what I think, but I'm going to open it up, climb in. We'll see in a second. See in here, I can't back up far enough with the camera, number 1. Number 2, we have the sun glare. But there it is, if you can see it in there. And then down here you can see the dashboard, how it fits in on the side and goes across like that. And so I'm pretty happy with the eyebrow. I don't think it sticks out too far. It doesn't really impede my vision. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do it like that. So now all I have to do is figure out how I'm going to, I want it to come out here and then have like a 3/8 kind of radius dowel thing out here on the end, and then curve back up underneath to the other thickness. And I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. Still working on that part. But anyway, there it is in place. It fits. I just have to do that one height adjustment to fix that gap right there, so it looks like this one with no gap. And then we'll be in business. Sorry, I forgot my mic. I know that it helps a ton, but I left it down at the airport. So I was kind of in a hurry to get home, spend time with the family, so I didn't get the film done. But this is basically the underneath side of that dash piece. And I knew that no matter what I did, I needed to get a layer of carbon fiber on the bottom. My thought process right now is that I'm going to actually get it down in there, tape it where it goes, and then flox it to that other piece flange and let that all dry so it's on the right shape and on the right angle. And then I'll come back and flex a piece of 1/4 inch melamine to this shape right here, and that way I can put some bracing under it and then go ahead and vacuum bag it too. I'm thinking right now maybe along that front that I could get like a 3/8 foam rod and glue it along there, and maybe wrap the carbon fiber up around that rod and onto itself on the bottom. Then when I vacuum bag it, it'll give me a nice round front along the front. That's my thought process now, unless I come up with something else. Anyway, there's the back of it vacuum bagged. It still does work a lot better being flat. The pump doesn't have to run nearly as often. It's 5 pounds higher on the pressure. So anyway, it does work better when it's flat, but I am still going to get some of that peel tape putty that goes underneath it, see if that works better. Anyway, we'll let this one cure out and then we'll get back at it. So let me bring you up to speed on where we're at. So I took the main part of the dashboard, which you've seen, and then this piece right here, the eyebrow, I fit out of wood. I showed you that. Then the other night I vacuum bagged and put carbon fiber on it. If you guys do something like this, my recommendation is build you a template first and get it in the approximate shape, because it was a nightmare to bend after it had the carbon fiber on one side. Anyway, I took it back down to the airplane. You can see here I floxed it together. This will all get covered when I carbon fiber over onto it. I'll actually take and fill this whole hole with a nice line of micro. Then I can carbon fiber over it. But I wanted this front to be thicker than just the 16th inch thick that the carbon fiber is going to be. So I thought and I thought to maybe try this. So I got a dowel. I made this jig, you can see, it's the same shape. I'm going to use it to vacuum bag the carbon fiber on it also. But then I went ahead and bent this dowel and floxed it, if you can see, onto the front of the dash all the way across. Now, as long as that holds there, when that's done, I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to micro in on the top and prepare that top for vacuum bagging. Then I'll use this same mold, put the carbon fiber on here, set this on top of it. Then I'll take the carbon fiber and pull it over this dowel and back onto here, and then vacuum bag it down so that this will become part of the carbon fiber. Will give me a nice round front. I am going to make a mold with a router. I'll make one that fits this shape, and then I'll run the router along it with the radius on it so I can tuck it up under here. That way on that top edge, when I vacuum bag it down, I'll have a nice edge on the front. The bottom might not be perfect because it'll just be whatever vacuum bag pressure I get, but it won't really be visible either. So anyway, that's my process. And that's where I'm at with my dashboard. We're going to let that dry overnight, and hopefully the dowel stays there. If it does, then we'll move on to the next step. So here it is. There's my jig all done. I got this front piece on with the cove radius in it. I've got my 2 layers of carbon fiber cut there. I'm going to wet them out right there in place. There's my dash with the front piece on, micro bloomed, sanded, ready to go. Then over here I have my piece of fiberglass that's going to go on behind the dash underneath side, ready to be wet out on a piece of plastic. And I just made 4 ounces of epoxy. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that up, wet everything out, then I'll check back in. So I got that piece all wet out. Kept it extra wet because I want to make sure on the front and in that front crease I don't have any dry spots. Now I'm going to go ahead and lightly wet out this wood portion so it doesn't soak up all of the epoxy from there. Then I'll wet out my fiberglass piece and we'll start vacuum setting. All right, I'm not getting the vacuum that I would like. I know that there's a lot of things on these ends to try and button up. I noticed that there's screw holes going through that I never thought about. I have been underneath here sealing those up. So I've got it coming up now, about 10, the number 10 on the gauge. It is pulling in these corners pretty good, but I expected a lot more pull. And I can see here we're a little bit loose. So I'm gonna actually go and get a stethoscope and then start looking for leaks and see if I can get the vacuum pressure to come up a little bit higher. Anyway, off to the store. So, at one point I pulled all of the plastic off because I wasn't getting a hold. And I actually put all of my seal tape down around the perimeter first. I put this piece across the back and this piece across the front. I let them hang out here wild and pinched them together. I did that on both ends. So I had a nice continuous piece of tape all the way around. Then I put this piece of plastic on, stuck it in the tape over here and out onto this tape. And then I did the same thing in the back. I stuck this one on all the way around, and then where it met here in the middle, I run it out onto that tape. Then it left this kind of loop here. So I put a piece of tape inside of it, tucked into the corner, and up, stuck into the other piece of tape, squished them together. Thought that would get a good seal, but it hasn't. And so then you'll notice I've gummed all of these up. Also, I've noticed that where this board hook's on, some of the vacuum can come and leak out around where that board seals to this board. So if I do something like this again and put this board down, I would actually caulk it down and glue it down so no air can get under there. Now this one here is behind that, which would be catching it, but I'm running into the problem on the end where the air can go in here and then come out underneath the board here. And so I have sealed that with some tape the best I can on both sides, but I'm sure I'm losing some there. Also the screw holes that I screwed this down onto, all of these are inside of the vacuum, but the underneath side is not. And I'm sure that there's some air that can go around those screws and down. So next time I would actually seal the tops of the heads of all of those screws. But as I kind of pushed down on it, it was being held down pretty good. But there was a couple of spots right here and right here where if I pushed down really hard, I could get it to go down a little bit. So I actually patted it as not to harm anything and clamped them down with these boards in those 2 spots that I had a little movement. Then I noticed by doing that, I created a little movement back here. So I did the same thing on those. So right now, it is all totally tight down against the mold. And we have pretty good pressure on the back. You can see it's pulling the extra epoxy up through my breather. So it is working, but I definitely would do a few things different. This is my second ever vacuum bagging process. I'm learning. The seal tape, much better than the duct tape, and it's cheap. Also, if you're in Salt Lake area, I found a place in Salt Lake called Industry Tech, and they carry all of these vacuum bagging, carbon fiber, fiberglass materials. They're cheaper, than places I was finding online, especially aircraft spruce. I know I paid about $18 a yard for the carbon fiber that was 54 inches or 52 inches wide, I don't remember. It's like $35 on aircraft spruce. And it's pretty much the same thing. It's kind of I don't know exactly what they call it. It's an 8-ounce. It's just like biodirectional fiberglass. Anyway, there's that. And then they threw in the tape for me. They have 2 or 3 different kinds of epoxy. They use Sika brand. I know that aero epoxy is what everybody's using in the airline industry. Anyway, the do-it-yourselfers. But they've told me that the Sika Flex, the Sika epoxy is every bit as good. They actually sell to a lot of aircraft manufacturers. So anyway, in Industry Tech in Salt Lake City, Utah, I'd give them a call if you're doing anything like this and get your stuff from them. Less money, and if you're local, it supports local businesses, and you don't have to wait for it in the mail. You can just grab it. So anyway, it's probably the best I'm going to get this sealed off. I got it up to about 14 on the vacuum gauge. It's not going to shut off. It's going to run constantly because I was planning on getting it up around 20 like the last one. But I'm fine with that. I'll time it for 4 or 5 hours and then shut it off. So anyway, I'm hoping it turns out well. It's not working exactly like I had planned, but we'll touch back in when it's cured, and we'll remove it from the mold tomorrow and see what it looks like. All right, back at it. So I pulled the dashboard out of the mold and brought it down to the airport to try it in the airplane. So the underside worked perfect, just like I planned. The face looks good. The top didn't turn out nearly as well as I had hoped. So you'll notice here on the top, I have this area here and this area here. And those got caused for 2 reasons. One reason is because I couldn't get the bag sealed off and get enough pressure, so it didn't pull it down as hard as it could have. The other reason is I went ahead to kind of make this piece have its shape, and I glued it on to the original panel, instrument panel portion. And what that did is it made it so you'll notice that that's in those areas on the side here, and where it was attached in a hard point, was also unable to clamp down in those spots. So I'm still going to use this. I'm not going to remake it. I'm going to use it as a learning experience. Now I'm going to body fill this top on those 2 areas, and the top portion of my dash now just become painted. We will still leave this part here in the raw carbon fiber, but we'll paint up under here and we'll paint the top. So anyway, I'm a little bit disappointed. It is my very first ever carbon fiber vacuum bagging project. Learned a lot. I'll continue to learn and get better. If you have any suggestions for me, I would definitely appreciate you passing those along. Anyway, there it is. It should work great. I'll get it installed in the airplane, and then I'll be back at it. All right, so here I am back down at the airport. I've got my dash all done. Just ready to prime it. So you'll see it fits in here. It comes up, follows this radius down. All my instrumentation will sit back here. Then if I close the canopy like that, now you can see it through the window. Seals off right along here. Put some little side shields right there so that it doesn't show through. You can see the Bondo where I filled in the places that the vacuum bagging didn't work well, that forced me to paint it. And it's ready to prime now. Maybe one more light coat of body filler. And just so you don't freak out, I'm not actually using Bondo. I know it's extra heavy. I am using this product. Aero Epoxy Light. It's a body filler. You have a part A and a part B. and you mix it together, 2 parts to 1 part. It is way easier to work with than epoxy with micro in it. It's more expensive, obviously, so I'm going to use the epoxy and the micro to get most of the filling done. And then I am going to use this for the final feathering and filling, because it's a much easier product to use for that. But anyway, there it is in place. I'm 90% happy with it. I would have liked that whole top to have been visible carbon fiber, but that wasn't to be. I don't know if the sun's blocking it so you can't see it or not, but there's my carbon fiber instrument panel, which will be right there. It will be raw fiber, which will look awesome. Anyway, that's it. While I'm here, I will show you, although it has nothing to do with that project, the updates that I've been doing on the airplane. So the guy we got it from hadn't done a very good job of filling in this area right here. There's a big divot there. So I actually made up some fiberglass panel, which was about this wide. And I glued it on up here and let it hang over and touch on the aileron. And then now I've put a coat of that filler over that. So a good sand job on this wing, and well, I got all of the wings done. And we'll be really close. Then I can start working on these ailerons, finishing them up. I've got the micro in the big full parts here. I just need to sand it and then do a body fill. But I want to get this part done. Then I can go right up to the edge here. I can move the aileron down and go right up to the edge and get that done good. So I've got all 4 of those done, which is good. I got all of the rough fill and sand done on the tail. It's ready for the new light material. So yeah, I mean, I have to be honest with you. I keep saying but I have an elf in the shoemaker situation going on here. And my elf works here all the time while I'm gone making money. And so I don't do a whole lot. All I've really done is made that dash on the evenings up at the shop and a little bit of body filler. He's pretty much done everything else. So anyway, that's the project. Cruising along pretty good. All right, so here's the finished product. It's ready to prime now. So I've got the eyebrow all done and sanded. I filled in the top where my holes were, and it's all smooth, so it's just ready for a sander primer now. I've got these little end slashes on. I added a little ribbon along the bottom there. It was a little flimsy at the bottom, so I glassed in a small piece of the lightweight plywood. And there it is. There's my dashboard, ready to paint and then install in the airplane. So I'm 85% happy with it. My next project will definitely be just a little bit better. But for my first ever vacuum bagging carbon fiber project, I am pleased. But anyway, I'll keep you updated on the next project. And if you guys have any input or comments, I would sure appreciate it. As like I say, I am learning as I go. So if you like my project, my airplane projects, please subscribe and push the like button. Also go ahead and hit that bell. I enjoy having new subscribers and having people follow along with my project. Hopefully give them a little assistance, and if it's somebody who's done this kind of stuff before, maybe they can give me a little bit of assistance. That's what it's all about. Anyway, back to work. Till next time.